Now I call Councilman Rodney Williams. Councilman Williams, will you champion the effort to require the Charleston Police Department to collect all vehicle and pedestrian stop data using best practices?
Yes.
Another yes. And will you ensure that all vehicle and pedestrian stop data is reported to the public?
Yes.
Another yes. And will you champion a request for proposal to hire a firm specializing in auditing police departments for racial bias using best practice criteria provided?
Yes, but I'd like my 30-second response.
Another yes, but go right ahead, Councilman Williams.
I do appreciate CAJM's ability to bring the community together. I do appreciate CAJM's ability to bring the community together, but as a public official, I would champion the third cause, but only after I reviewed the independent audit that was unanimously approved by members of City Council to include racial bias practices in the police department. After that report comes back, I would have no problem with proceeding with question number 3 to proceed.
So let me clarify your yes. Based on what you've said, you're referring to the Novak audit that the city has contracted for?
The audit that is in place now is to include racial bias practices within the police office, irrespective of what we may question their ability to. It's already been approved by council. I think it's only fair to review that data. And so
you're asking the community to wait until Novak finishes its analysis and presents it to council before you will support the call for a firm specializing in an audit of racial bias.
Yes, because that's public dollars that we have dispensed to this audit, and that's how we use public data is public dollars, and we paid for this. We need to see what that report is.
Okay. Now, you've heard your 4 colleagues state that they are willing to champion a call for the hiring of a firm that specializes in police audits. Did you not?
Clearly heard.
Okay.
Clearly
and
heard that.
What we meant and what we've explained by championing, it means that you are willing to advocate before City Council by way of an action item on its agenda to hire a firm that specializes in police bias. And my question to you is, if your colleagues are able to put on the agenda of City Council prior to the completion of the Novak report, will you support the call for a firm specializing in police bias at that time?
At that time, after we have gotten the report that we have spent public money, I will.
Let me make my question clear. My question says that before the Novak report is report is completed, your 4 colleagues sitting here are able to get on the agenda of City Council a motion that the city hires a firm specializing in an audit for police bias. Would you at that time support that motion?
Not prior until we get the report that we've spent the taxpayers' money on that was unanimously approved by council.
Okay. Now, I just want to be clear that I think there are 5 African Americans on Charleston City Council.
There's 12.
Well, there are 5 African Americans.
That's correct.
A total of 12 plus the mayor. And these African Americans, as you've heard one of your own council member testify about himself and another testify about what happened to his brother. Having heard those stories along with Mr. German's account of what happened to his son, are you asking this community to wait for a report from a firm that has, by our research, has been deemed unqualified to conduct the kind of audit for police bias for the city of Charleston? Are you asking them to wait until we get a report from an organization that is not qualified?
My colleagues can proceed prior to the report if that's their will, but we have spent taxpayers' money, and we have a responsibility to that money was spent to get this report that includes police biases for what, regardless of what you may think the qualification firm, I stand on that as a public official.
Now, I won't belabor this. When you voted for the hiring of Novak and Rep.
It was
Tellis,
unanimously approved by members of council.
and at the time you voted, did you know that Novak was being hired to conduct an audit of police bias in the Charleston Police Department?
Procurement processes are run by the city staff and that particular department. I was not aware that in the RFQ that was specifically in there, because that's just something that, it comes, I did not know that. I could acknowledge that. I was not in that process.
So you voted to spend money without knowing
No, that's not,
what
no,
you
that's
were spending money for?
No, that's totally incorrect. Our audit was an audit of all departments of the city of Charleston that will take about a 3-year period. So that's very incorrect. Our audit is an audit of efficiency to figure out what we are going. He added the racial bias in after the fact, but our audit is an audit to look at every department in the city of Charleston for its efficiency and effectiveness of how we spend the taxpayers' money. That's what the audit was not specifically at that point for racial bias. It was included in there.
Well, and we applaud the city of Charleston and the mayor for having hired a firm to conduct an efficiency audit. What we're asking for is a specialized audit for racial bias. You mentioned that it was added in afterwards. Do you know who added it in afterwards?
No, do not.
And were you told that it was added in?
Yes, I was.
And when were you told about that?
I can't recall.
All right.
Thank you.
So just one last point. I'm going to finish with you. So just to be clear, your answer is no to number 3.
My answer
Listen to the question is, will you champion a request for a proposal to hire a firm specializing in auditing police departments for racial bias using best practices provided? Your answer to that question, as I understand, I just want to make sure everyone is clear, is no.
My answer is yes, but only after I have reviewed what we have spent the taxpayers' money on to include the audit that include racial biases in the police practices. Regardless of what you think of the firm is hired and we are spending money on the firm. That's just logically what you do with taxpayers' money. We got to get those results. After those results, I feel comfortable that we can look at this issue.
Councilman Williams, I think we are very clear on where you stand.
Thank you.
And to stand, let me just make it clear, it appears that you are willing to stand with the city police chief and mayor and not with this community. Thank you.